It's good that we start. Okay, while the recording starts, I guess everybody knows that starting this week, there's a conference starting this week in US. I'm forgetting the name now completely, and I'm presenting. I'm so bad.
The Summit North America.
Yes. Th- Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Summit North America starting, and I'm guessing Steve, you are going there, right?
Yes, I will be flying to Houston.
Yeah, I'll be there for one session virtually, uh, and then I'll be there for Q&A and other sessions. But I have one session there, so let's see how it goes there. But okay, as we left some things last week, we'll continue on the same topic. Maybe more weeks to come on that. There were some questions that I received about what we briefly discussed in the last meeting about what's new. So maybe we'll go into some details of it, because they seem legit questions where everybody should be concerned about those. Um, I don't think anybody is new here, but if you're new, you go on this page and register every week. If you are here and want to be invited every time, just drop your name and email, and I'll make you default attendee. So the first question that I got after the session went live on YouTube was around destructive change. And this was super important, and I thought I also have not discussed one of the common thing that I knew in Business Central about the destructive change thing, because for the people who are coming from NAV, because that's something more AL focused. So with Business Central 19, Microsoft have offered a way that you can decide that do you want to do an additive change with your extension, or do you want to do a force related change. Force means that you're doing a destructive change. And anytime we talk about destructive change, it's only related to tables. It doesn't impact any other object. You delete a code unit, you delete a report, that doesn't matter. Only in tables you can make a destructive change, because behind the scene that impacts the SQL schema of that table. Now, when we talk about table, these are the 4 5 things which can have a destructive change. Like you can change a table number. Is that destructive? You can change a name. Will that be considered destructive even before BC19? And same for field number and name, and also field length, which I forgot to specify here. And then the one major thing is keys. So I guess I want to spend time into it a little bit. So what I've done is, let me find my test environment. So what I've done is I have deployed an extension which have one table. And what I'll do is during deployment, I have also defined an install code unit which wrote some random records into that table so that we can use it. That table is 80,000. It have 10 record in both the companies. And both the companies have same record, just for the example's sake. So this is the table. While it's get loaded, what I'll do is also start Visual Studio Code while this is loading. Okay. And this is the source code of it. That this is the table that is there that we are seeing, which is there are a set of fields and there's a primary key of code. Now, just answer me, and otherwise I'll stop this part. But what do you think if I change this number from, let's say, 1 to 100, and this is primary key, remember that, will that be considered as a destructive change in general?
Navision, yes. BC, I'm not sure.
Okay, anyone else want to give it a try?
I have no idea. Interesting question.
So in the NAV word, the primary key, more or less, of the table, which is storing the objects, table info, was the table number or the field number. So you cannot actually change the table number. as Sandeep was saying, that we cannot change in the nav word. This is considered as destructive. And I tested it in BC 17, which is super interesting that in BC, this is not considered as destructive. When you change the table number or table name, table number or the field number, these changes are not considered as destructive. So if I do a Control Shift B, that gives me the new app. Let me just try to add this as a additive mode. That's what we want to check. That is it, and you can test it on nav 20 or BC 16, and I'm pretty sure I've tested it for one of my customers. And surprisingly, I didn't knew that Microsoft was doing such great things behind the scene, which is removing the reference to this object number thing, because that was one of the major things that people were complaining about. So I'm not changing the sync schema mode. I'm keeping it as add. Means I'm assuming that the extension that I'm deploying, the higher version, does not have any destructive change. So if it gets deployed, that means what we are trying is okay. If it fails, then we'll see, then we'll understand that it was a destructive change. So what I was saying while this is happening is in as the Business Central announced, and I guess this also impacts the licensing from that perspective. And if you look at how Microsoft is trying to solve these problems is with introducing of entitlements. Now, when you code in NAV, you reference a object with object number. But in Business Central, you reference a object, or in AL, you reference a object with object name. And in the same way, when one fine day I by mistakenly changed the object field ID of a table and I deployed that extension. After it passed my build pipeline, and in the customer sandbox, it got deployed. And that's where I thought that, okay, this is interesting, which is happening behind the scene. And I had no idea that Microsoft is trying to kind of change this primary key relation from the number to the name. So when we change the field IDs and table IDs, this is a bit slow today, I don't know why, it is not considered as destructive for some reasons. Not for some reason, for obvious reasons. Oh, it failed. That's surprising. Oh, it did not have a permission set. Okay, iPhone. 80,001 is missing permission set. PD, the XML file should not contain permission and permission set. Oh, okay, sorry. Just to save time, what I did is instead of creating permission, and this is a good learning, if you're doing something like this, you should not be doing that going forward, at least for your SaaS customers. You'll have to create a sync demo permission file. Okay, st permission set, and let's make it at 80,000. And this is applicable to all your extension related permissions that you create. So keep this in mind, at least for SaaS. Microsoft has stopped using permission as data. So you'll have to start changing your permissions to object. So here on this include, no, I don't want to include anything. And then this object type is table. Object name is this. I guess we talked about it last time when this function was released. RMIDX. If you keep it capped small, I guess, then it is invalid permission kind. Okay, what is that? Oh, because this is a table. Okay, the table data. I'm new on this one, I guess. So I need to kind of understand this in a correct way. but this is stable, so you can only execute it. But here you can do which is read, insert, modify, delete for the same object. Oh, there's no execute on table data. Okay. So that was table data. This one was table, which I have assigned, and then there is a code unit. And the code unit is this. And let me for a while comment this code unit. I don't need it. Okay. Okay. So you cannot have permissions as XML, at least for your SAS extension. For your extensions, you need to have them as object. And let's build it again. Okay. Okay. And this one failed, so I'll have to change the version. Okay. One 1.02. Add, accept, deploy. Okay. So while this is happening, and we'll wait for it, that takes some time. Let's move to something else, and we'll keep on coming back on this one. As I was talking about last time, that I get super interested about emailing, because in my life I have done so many email related customizations in Dynamics Nav or Business Center. So in this release, what Microsoft has done is that they have announced a new way of handling your email bodies if you have hard time with your developing word layouts by creating reports, and because it was still needed some experience from the coding perspective. But now if you go into, let's say, on your sales order, let's pick a order, and if you're trying to send this as an email, this will run that engine, do the attachment, and also add the email body, which is coming from the word layout that we all know. But if you don't like this, on the top, if you notice, there is a new icon here called use word template. And we have talked about word template in our past discussions, which is available and easily extendable on different application areas in Business Center. But if you want, as a user, to design a word template for the email body, then you can do it. And as soon as you click on this will pop up a selection window for the word template that are available in your system. Now, when you go back behind the scene and try to identify which word templates it's showing you, it actually shows you any word template that you have built for customer, which is table 18, or which you have built for sales order, which makes no sense, as in you will never go and create a, as in, can you? Yeah, you can. But if you have created a word template attached to customer or for the sales order, in this case, because this is a sales email, you can choose that for your email body. And just for the demo, I have created this customer email template. You can choose here and click finish. Your email body will get replaced with whatever comes out of your word template. And this is just a word template that I have created for all my customers, right? Because it's a template, it applies to every customer. So in this case, it picks the customer name, whosoever was a customer for this, his address, and then it gives a count of what is the active business, how many open documents are there in our system for you. And then it also gives you how many of us has been processed. So now, sorry, with BC19 and higher, you don't have to spend crazy amount of hours if you have hard time in building the word layout for your reports just for the email body. You can make it as fancy as you want from your Word template also, which is more or less a mail merge concept. Does that make sense? Sorry. Okay. This is what I used, as in this is the template that I have created, which is just a simple Word document. And these are my mail merge field, which are in this case coming from the customer, these ones. But as I was saying, in this, when you select the Word template, it gives you both the option to pick it from customer or pick it from the sales order. So you have created a template for sales order, that will also apply. You'll have all the fields, but yeah, you'll not have lines, which is super interesting. That if you have to add details of your sales line, how you'll do that. Okay, so let's see. This is one thing that has been changed. But let's see what happened to our extension. Okay, so this got installed, and remember, I didn't do a force. I just did a sync with additive changes, right? And it allowed that change, and that table info will remain as it is. The field IDs has been changed, but as a user in Business Central, I cannot see the ID, so it doesn't matter. But let's see the data. Was there a data loss on that? What happened? Oh, 80,001. Oh yeah, I changed the table number to 80,001. Sorry. Okay. So this is the table. The data remains as it is. There's no impact on the data. And that means that changing the object or the field numbers does not considered as the destructive change. And if you see here, you can see the table field numbers here. They are changed from 1 to 100, 102 to 2 to 102. So irrespective of you are on Business Central 19 or not, if you are building an extension and there is a need of changing the table or the field ID, that is okay. Until less if you are referring this table somewhere with the number, because that system allows it. As in, I can do a variable of my test where on record 80,001, and it's a valid record. So unless you are not doing something like this in your code, I think you are good if you have to change the table ID or the field ID of a table. It is not considered as destructive. Okay, so we have seen the numbers are not considered destructive, which obviously means the table name and field names will be considered as destructive. So if I change it to code 1, or I should not change it like this. I should always do a F2 by selecting it so that all the references gets updated. And in this case, the primary key gets updated. But let's not change the primary key. Change the description title to be description 1. Now this is considered as destructive. If I change it to version 3 and try to save it and do a build. If I don't publish this as force sync, this will get failed. So let's try that. I will go here and 80,000, 1,003. Keep it add and accept and deploy. I'm pretty sure after a while it'll say that it got rejected. Okay, so we'll not wait for it. We'll move ahead and see something else in the meantime. Okay, so I think everybody have noticed about the posting preview, but if you haven't, what Microsoft have done is change the posting preview feature, or not actually change, but enhance the posting preview feature so that it's extensible also in a more flexible way. We talked about NM in past 6-7 meetings ago, So what Microsoft has done is on general ledger setup, they have given a new option, what type of posting preview you want. And that's an enum, which is deriving the implementation of what kind of posting preview will be used. So now,
Are they using interfaces?
yes, they're using interfaces with posting preview also.
Okay.
So that means it also, and I understand, I kind of get the idea why Microsoft did it, at least on the posting preview side, because let's say if you are posting one of your separate ledgers while the posting is happening, let's say sales order posting is happening, and you want to put, let's say, your separate table commission ledger entry when the sales order get posted. That all can happen on the posting, but then there was a limitation on the preview side. That preview will not pick it up because you were not able to customize the preview that the way you wanted it. So with this enum extending it here as an interface, you can define your own method of the posting preview. So as an ISV or as an app developer, if you want to extend that to an extent where your entries are also considered during the preview also, that way it makes it easier for you. So if you do a standard preview posting, that's an error. So this is not a right example, I guess, but let me pick this one. So if you try to preview post this everybody has this error or what? Okay, let me add the purchaser code. Okay, where is dimension? Okay, purchaser, and then let's say, okay, let me update the lines also. Okay. So if I try to do a preview posting now, this is what? Okay, sales account is missing. I was surely testing something else for sure when I change these setups. So this is a standard or known preview posting where it shows you all type of entries that will be created if you post this document in this way. You can navigate to a certain level where it can show you which accounts will be hit when this transaction gets created. Now, as I was saying, that you can go to your general ledger setup and change it to the other way that Microsoft have enhanced it, which is extended. Now, behind the scene, the interface knows at which method to be called when you do a preview posting. It'll show you something like this, which is all the GL entries. You can show them hierarchically. It also shows you the VAT entries that are being created with this. And you can collapse these and then also other related entries. Now you have a better way to implement this. Go ahead and extend that enum and also define your own implementation for this method and the way you want it. Right? So instead of providing events, moving things to enum in some scenarios makes sense, but in some scenarios it can be destructive. Let's put it this way. Like if Microsoft, let's say, put the whole sales posting routine into an interface, then that's a bad example because then you can define your implementation of that interface in a way that it doesn't check anything or it just directly goes and post it. So where the things are not that crucial, like posting preview, is you are not actually manipulating any business logic or data. You're just showing what will happen if this transaction gets posted. Those areas or email account where you have to go through a way, you can't bypass the whole system. In those way, interfaces makes more sense. But if you start touching or providing interfaces on the critical business areas, that's where it causes a risk, I think. But yeah, do try this, the extended posting preview option on your general ledger setup. And as we have seen this, let's go back and see what happened to our deployment. Okay. Deployment status for 3, it's still in progress. That's bad. So long time. What it is validating. And I haven't chosen force, so it should have been failed. Oh, it failed. Okay. So let's see what happened when we change the object name. It says could not upgrade the nav extension because this field, the field description cannot be located. Removing field is not allowed. Which means changing an object or a field name is considered as destructive. You can change the field ID or the table ID, but you cannot change the field name or the table name because that is considered as destructive. And Sandeep said, you have something?
Interesting thing is if you change this text to code, what will happen?
It'll be destructive. I think so.
No.
But no,
Fun part, at least on premise, no. And
it will
even the
not.
data is
Yeah,
not deleted.
it will not. And let's think about it because behind the scene in SQL Server, and that's a very good question, I guess. And we need to start rethinking about our kind of NAV experience in past. But text and code both are kind of stored as nvarchar. There is not a separate data type for code in SQL Server. But what I would be interested if I change it to code in seeing is how the data look like. Is it look like as text or it look like as code? That's my question, I guess. If I change this to code, does my all data changes to caps or does it still remains as text?
I have
And I
checked
guess,
code to text. It doesn't create any problem. Even the data is not deleted. But I've never done text to code, so I don't know.
yeah, because the only major difference between text and code is that it's one treats it as you type it. I'm not changing the schema mode. The code treats it as it converts it to caps, right? So while this is happening, let me start my SQL Server and connect it to my. Sorry, I'm here. I need to come here. Connect it to my. And let me tell you what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like in our any of the table, let's pick customer. Okay. In the customer table, the number is code. And for some reason, I cannot zoom this. Let me use Zoom, Windows Zoom. Magnifier, yeah. Okay. So if we look at it, the number is in behind the scene is code, but it is stored as nvarchar, and name is text, which is also stored as nvarchar. So behind the scene, sorry, okay. Okay. So behind the scene, both of them are nvarchar. Either it is text or it is code. Now the interesting thing would be what happens if I change it, which I just did. Let's see what happens with that. Because if it is not considered as a destructive change, then the question is about the data. Because data need to be case sensitive in that case. Need to be all caps on and no spaces, more or less, in the beginning and the end. So the 4 also failed. Nav text to nav code, which is not allowed. So maybe code to text is allowed, because then the system does not have to change the case sensitive part, which I was explaining earlier. But from text to code, it's not allowed. Okay, so let me change it to text again. Now, what happens if I delete a field and then I do a forcing or force method? Will it impact the whole data, or will it just delete the data from this field in the table? I've just deleted this field and my table have data, as we have seen. So I'll change it to version 5. Let's try to build this again. I'm sure I have reverted it back to text. Yes. So what I've done is I've removed the demo delete, and before we move ahead, let's see the data here. The Boolean field have some data. There are some yes and no available on that field. So we would like to see that what happens to this data. The code or the records are in order of D1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and have some description. All have today's date, and entry number is 1 to 15 running, I guess. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 11 to 15. So if I delete this one of the field, does that delete data from all the table, from the whole table, or just from that field? Because in NAV, and I'm sorry if I'm going back so much into NAV, if you delete a field and try to do a force sync, that only deletes data from that particular field until unless it's part of a primary key, and rest of the table remains as it is. There is no impact on rest of the table data. I'm hoping that's the same behavior with this new schema mode, that it only deletes the data from that particular field which is not available. And it already did that. Okay, now there's version 5. So let me go into and there are still 10 records, which is good. And the field is deleted. Okay, so deleting a field which is not part of a key will only delete the data from that particular field. It will not delete data from other fields. Now, what else is remaining? We have checked. Okay, let's check this part.
This is Steve.
Yeah, yes,
I'm
Steve.
actually amazed to see the field be deleted. Like I would have never thought that was even possible, especially since we can't even change a value in an enum without getting a breaking change. Is that just allowed because this is a PTE? Like, would this be allowed on an app source app?
No, so with PTE, the Microsoft released this new update on BC19, right? Where when you deploy the extension, there is this option available now. What kind of schema sync mode you want to apply?
Okay, got it.
Now, this is something which was so long available in NAV, where you can define the schema mode. So back in NAV days, if you have a database like this, right? This is NAV. And if I delete a field here, when I try to save it, it used to ask me which kind of schema sync you want to use.
Okay.
So only for PTEs, what Microsoft has done is brought this back.
Got it.
On SaaS, on premise it was only.
Yeah, on premise it was there, right?
Okay, got it. Okay, my mind is so much around app source at the moment. We are so scared to make schema changes because we
Yeah.
want to avoid the breaking changes. Okay.
And I think that there should be a way, not directly, but maybe in a planned way, like you keep that field obsolete for a while, and then because
Correct. Yep.
a
That's what we're
solution
having to deal with.
get mature in future, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know why it's only limited to PTEs at this point. That's what it says. The documentation says about it, that it's only applicable to PTEs. But I understand that when you even develop app source apps, there will be changes in your solution, and
Yeah.
there should be a way to clean it up in future.
Yeah, we're assuming that we have to mark it as deprecated and then removed, I think is the term, and then we have to write code to migrate that data to the new field, for instance. That's our understanding. We haven't done it yet, so we need to research it, but we're a little
there
nervous.
is a way, right? There is a way, like in an upgrade, that you can do that
Exactly.
using an upgrade code unit.
Upgrade code, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So now the text field is of type size 50. And what we were looking at here, the maximum size of the text is this one, which I have intentionally put this word here so that we can check that, because when I tested it last week, I had a weird finding. So this is the maximum text. And and the smallest text there is something like, okay, let me go back here. It's something like this. So if I get the length of this is approx what, 13. So what happens if I change this field length to be 15? Instead of being 50, if I change it to 15. What are our guesses? Let's take our guesses, because it's taking some time to kind of, get deployed there. So I'm just trying to reduce it to 60 or 15 instead of being 50. Let me build the app and I'll start the deployment.
It will be destructive because it's
no, it's destructive. That's true. It's destructive. But what will happen to the data? I have two kinds of data there.
It would be trimmed.
No,
It
it will
takes
not be
15,
trimmed.
31. Just 15 characters.
Trimming will not be the right solution. It should get deleted.
Let's hope. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, let me repeat it again. It was 50 character long. The data that was there was maxed to this length, and let me count this length also. It was 19 character, the maximum data that was there on this field, and the minimum data was 13. What I've done is a new size that I've set it to 15. Now there are three ways that it can handle it. The one way that Sam said, that it'll shrink it to 15, this data line to 15, way one. The way two is it will delete all the data, as Sandeep was saying. So let's see which one happens, because I just did a force sync on my extension here. And let me refresh this to see the version 6 available or not. Because I had a weird thing, as in that I see, which I don't agree to, but that's what is happening. Which is on.
All right, place your bets.
Yes. No, you won, man, Sam. Don't worry. Is it? Yeah, it truncated extra character from that column. So instead of being description 11 long, it truncated it to 15 character, and this is the text there.
Can you make it 5 and recheck it?
Yeah, I can make it
So
5 again.
that
will change everything.
Empty characters, right?
No, as in, yeah, you can copy it here. So if you just do it, it have the space. But yeah, I can change it to 5. It will trim others also.
This is pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. It doesn't seem the right way. If somebody is making a destructive change, then you should delete that data from that field. But I especially wanted to discuss it because I saw it last week happening, and I was like, is that the right way to do it? If you're doing something like this, as in if somebody is making a destructive change, he should handle it other way rather than trimming the data. Because if it is, what if it is related, it
Oh,
is
yeah,
coming from a table
relational fields.
relation, right? You can't just be truncating it.
I'm just wondering if it is a primary key of the table,
No, then in that
and
case, that primary key. Oh yeah,
will it
that's a good
rename
one.
it to everywhere else?
Because I found one more interesting fact about the primary key, and that's I guess next that we'll talk about. So it got upgraded to 7. Let's see what happens on the 7. As Sam won last time, I'm expecting everything trimmed to 5 character. So let's see what happens there. And everything actually trimmed to 5 character, guys.
You see, I think this is quite expectable and quite all right. If you're using the same data type, going from 15 to 5, that's fine. If you are
But
to change the data from character to integer, this is going to cause a problem.
this is
This
going to
is
cause a problem because if the description field is, let's say, coming from a table reference of item number, let's assume, just to make it a thing.
um, sort of small idea.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
can you make this D15 into D155 and then reduce the length of this code field to 3? That will be pretty interesting to see.
I can just reduce it to 2. Oh, okay. Then
No,
it
no, no. Then
overlap.
it
Okay.
will overlap.
Yeah, overlap. Okay. What I'll do is, okay, this sounds fun to play with. So what I'll do is I'll add one more record here using my this load code units. I'll uncomment this. Okay. And I have a bad habit of doing this manually, but let me do this. Okay. Now you're saying we need what, 115
Yes.
and 114, let's say, and then you want to reduce it to what, 2?
3 characters.
3
So there
characters.
is, it doesn't
Okay,
do
so
that
let me
duplication
do
problem.
this. Yeah, so that means it'll set here. Okay, this was 5 now, right? 5. What you're saying, as if you don't understand it right now, is we're trying to change the primary key in our next load. Not on this one. I will keep this as it is. Let's change it to version 8. Data layout code unit will add these 2 new records into the database. And then I need to add the code unit permission. Otherwise it will bark at me again. Okay.
Can't you change the primary key from the front end?
I don't have a page for it. So I'm just publishing this. This is 7 build. Right. So let's deploy this. That should be easy enough. Upload extension. Okay. Version 8. And that's an additive change. I just added 2 records, nothing much. This will get deployed and we'll have the data in a while. But in the meantime, let's prepare for our next version of the extension, which is version 9, where we want to try this time to comment this code unit first. Okay. What we want to try now is to reduce the length of the primary key from 20 to, what is that? And let's see the data again.
3.
3 might,
D15.
3 might overlap it. Let me see. Okay. Let me refresh this page. And okay. So the details that we have added, the 7 is available now. And if we filter out for 80,001, you see 10 records, only 10. It should be more this time.
You're supposed to deploy 8 or 7.
Did I deploy what? 7? My bad. Or is it still running? Let me see. Okay. Oh, it is up now there. Sorry. Okay, so let me click on it again. It should refresh the data automatically and show us 12 records at this point. No. Okay. This page needs to get loaded. So what we are doing right now, and this is happening. This is done. Okay. Why this is not loading the data? I should rather create a page, right? There are 2 records into it. Okay, let me add a page. Just keep it simple. And we'll use the wizard and we'll do a page and we'll name it as demo page. Okay. Okay. This is searchable because uses categories there, editable. Okay, everything good. Okay, this is
Permission.
Just go ahead and add the permission. Okay. So I have the permission, I have everything, and this is my version 9. Okay. So let's go there because that'll be interesting to see what happens if I try to trim or reduce the length of the primary key. Because if it let me change the primary key, that means it is renaming records behind the scene, which doesn't sound correct because I can have related records to that primary key.
Not only that, suppose if somebody changed sell to customer number field on the sales header to 10 characters, what will happen?
Sell to,
So
we can't change that, right? As in we'll refer it to in our app. We cannot modify the Microsoft app thing.
oh, just taking as an example. So
Yeah, right.
child record is
Yeah,
getting
the
updated.
Yeah, because if the primary key length can be reduced, that's a weird design in that case. Because as soon as you make any destructive change like we are making now, we should be deleting that data. And if it is a part of a primary key, then it should be completely deleting that record. What we are doing now is we are creating a D113 or 1132 5 today, entry number 101. Okay. Let's create one more B1 2 3. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 today and 102. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to reduce it to 1 2
Now
3
4
4
characters.
4 characters, and then see what happens if we do a force. Okay. I'm hoping this gets rejected or all the records get deleted for the best case scenario. Okay, so let's do a build. and hope everything gets deleted. If it does not, then that's a big problem. Okay. So everyone, please place your bets only on deleting all the data. Because if it trims it, that's bad. Yeah. Then we might have to submit a ticket with Microsoft to fix it in a way that it should be. And reducing or stripping the character seems, if you don't think from the relational perspective and other thing perspective, it might sound cool that yeah, it's doing what I wanted. Okay, let's save some time. The version 10 is here. Oh no. No, this should not be happening. Guys, create a ticket with Microsoft as soon as you can. This is not allowed. They should never be allowed.
I'm just thinking what would have happened if there would have been child record with that before
Right.
trim. And what will happen if we reduce the length of the child field?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. If there is a table relation to this field, that goes away. If there is child attached to this record, that linkage is broken because I'm pretty sure it's not going in and updating the links. That doesn't make any sense.
Ideally, it should, if the rename code is called.
But I don't think it's a rename code. It's just trying to force that table with the change that you have and trying to retain whatever it can. Because it's like writing that line in CAL, that sync schema mode, force or with a trim. Now, when we do that in NAV in the old versions, it doesn't know about the related record. It only talks about that table, right? Which is the table in question, which is this table in this case.
It used to update all the related tables, right?
No, never. If you write a upgrade logic here in CAL, right? If you do, I have an upgrade code unit. Yeah, luckily I have an upgrade code unit here. So if you, and this might be a pretty old one, but let me see. In North America, okay. So, and this is very old for sure, but there is this. So now when you write this logic, let me zoom this in so that everybody can see it. When you write something like this, it says that table location is going nowhere and you just need to check that there is no destructive change. It doesn't check the related records to location table, right? When it says that there is a force, it only talks about this table and it will delete all the records from this table because there is a force. Or if somewhere it says copy or move, that table specific is being dealt with. All these modes are based on that particular table, item table or sales line. It doesn't find the relation between item and sales line and update those. If you do it from the front end, then it will be, but if you write code for it, then it doesn't. In the same way, when you do a forcing, and this is my assumption, I'm equating it to NAV word when you try to save a table and choose this option. It doesn't care about the child record. It just care about that table that you're dealing with.
I'm checking from perspective if I'm doing a force change here, and if I change the primary key of the customer field to say 5 characters, and there were already 10 character fields there,
It
what
will
will
not
happen?
rename. It will not rename.
It will delete the record.
Yes, it will delete the record in this case. If you reduce the
And,
primary key length, it will delete the record.
and it will blank all the references.
Reference
All
will
the,
automatically get blank when the table get loaded because the master record is deleted. Right?
yes.
That's how the application is. But this one surely is a bad thing. That what Microsoft is doing in this, as in there is a lot of responsibility on partners on this one. if this design doesn't change, because this is a bad design, if this is a design. Now, surprisingly, you can also change the primary key of this table at this point. If you can do all this with a force sync, then I'm pretty sure that you can go ahead and say, oh, my primary key is not code, my primary key is entry number.
And it will not delete the record. Do you know that?
Sorry?
It will not delete the records.
It will not delete the record.
It will
but
simply change.
What I want to try is not this. I want to try this. Now what will happen? I'm making entry number as the primary key, and the primary key is failing the primary key concept of being unique. Now what will happen? Think about it, place your bets, and I'll just do some random changes. Because I was super fascinated when I see this not truncating thing. I was like, okay, that's something need to be discussed for sure, because this is, to me, that seems incorrect when I did for the description. I never even thought about the primary key that you said, Sandeep said, and I tried it. But till that point, I never thought about it, that I'll give it a try with the primary key, because I thought Microsoft will make sure that the primary key should not be impacted. But now if it is doing that with the primary key, now what happens if I change the primary key on a field which is not unique?
Ideally, it should delete the data.
Ideally, I'm also thinking that it should delete the data. If it is unique, then I guess it is supporting the primary key, which is okay. But does it logically it should delete the data? But which one should it pick? Out of two record, which one it will pick?
All.
It'll delete all?
It should.
Okay, that is something to see. Version 10 still. Okay, it's trying to sync. This might be the last test because we are running out of time, but this is an interesting test. We're changing a primary key to a field which is actually not unique, and Microsoft is taking time on doing this. So it is doing something for sure. Sam, any bets? Will it delete the data? Or anyone else have any bets?
Out of money. Yeah, I'm out of money actually. I'm not betting anymore.
It won't? Okay. Okay, so here it is. There's nothing to show, which is good. Which is understandable that you delete
Can you go
everything.
to the other company? Can you go to the other company?
Don't tell me the data will be there in another company. Because I haven't changed I haven't changed the uniqueness over there. There can be data. That's a good thing to check. Okay.
Data will be there.
Yes, because entry number is unique there.
I think test would be to check if I have got only some records which are duplicate, what happens then?
Okay. Demo. And data is here. And now the entry number is a primary key. Oh yeah, I did everything duplicate, right? So that means it deleted everything. But still, then it should kept someone. No, that makes sense. What it did, if it is not unique, then it should be deleted. Which is cool. Okay, if you guys have time, I'll just do one thing as you were saying. I'll just make one duplicate and I'll change it back to code. So only D1 is duplicate, rest are unique, and I'll change it back to code. I actually want to break this understanding of this logic. Okay, 12 demo table.
It will still delete all.
Okay, let's do a code. Okay. Do a build. Okay. Load extension, and then we go to the version 12 and we say force. Yes. Okay, accept, deploy. Now there are two scenarios to happen. Either it deletes all, as Sandeep is saying, or it deletes only the D1, which is duplicate over there, and keep others. Okay, I'm still waiting it to do what it is doing. Okay. Still taking some time, so I'm pretty sure it's trying to delete the data. Okay, so the version 12 is there, and let's go ahead. Deleted everything. Okay, so that means if you have a primary key which is not unique by any means, then the data will get deleted in that sense. But the only catch or the only problem that we found out is reducing the field length, which is also applicable to the primary key, which is super crazy thing. It should not be applied to any field. If there is a field length decrease, the data from that field should be completely deleted. If it is on the primary key, then all the records from that table should be deleted. I cannot think of how many business scenarios will fail if this model is working the way it is right now. Because there are table references, there are child records that are attached to primary keys. So field reduction should delete the data from that field, and if it is primary key, if that field is part of the primary key, then the table data should be deleted. Anything else that anybody want to add on this destructive change? And I'm air quoting it right now here. Okay, if not, I guess that's all for today, and then we'll meet next week. There is a lot to cover on Business Central. We'll keep talking about what's changed in BC19, and I'm hoping that if I get some time, I'll create a ticket about this for Microsoft to make sure to change this way of field length reduction. This is worry. I'm super worried with this one at this point.
Just a small question.
Yes.
How did NAV behave if I change the primary key, if I reduce the length of primary key?
If I reduce the length of the primary key, and then
It
you
used to give me error if there is a conflict, but if there was no conflict, then it used to allow. The only thing that is happening new is that it is reducing the length of the characters.
Yes, right. It should not reduce the length. That's what my point is. If let's say if the field length is 50 and you're trying to reduce it to 40, but the data is 10 character in all the companies, right?
Yes.
Then NAV used to allow it because that makes sense. Because you're not truncating any data, you are just reducing the field length, which is okay.
Problem is truncation.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if this truncation that is happening, if that creates a conflict.
It
then
will
it
create a
delete all the
conflict.
data.
Yeah. But only for primary key, right? I'm also
Yes.
worried about non-primary key fields because in that case, it can break the table relation logic that may have been used on that field. And I'm not saying there are not ways to fix it, but that puts so much responsibility on so-called developer community. And we have variety of experienced people, and a variety of people who knows in different capacity they know much about the system. I'm not saying somebody will do it intentionally, but this can cause problems in custom solutions that you are building. And if me being Microsoft think about it, then I'll just eliminate the data. I'm giving you a feature which is where you can remove uh, the wrong design that you have chosen in past on your pertinent extension. So I as Microsoft can decide what rules will be followed. And to put it very simply, if there is a field length reduction, irrespective of primary key or non-primary key, the data should not be truncated. It should be deleted from that field. That's what I think about it, right?
Same here.
Okay. That was fun, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh.
See you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.